Welcome to explainingthefuture.com. This time I'm going to talk about the death of economics. Despite this controversial title, I'm not actually going to propose that in future economics will not matter at all, as on a basic financial level it most certainly will. However, what I am going to argue is that green issues, ethical concerns and a range of survival challenges are now starting to become just as important as always getting the best price. Our reliance on economics as a primary decision-making mechanism is therefore coming to an end. Economics was both a blessing and a curse of the 20th century. As capitalism won the battle against communism, so both governments and business grew narrow-minded due to their obsession with always making the best economic decision. The very positive result was that prosperity ensued. However, the very negative was that economic logic trod all too heavily over so many of those other human values that allowed us to survive long before note, coin and e-banking website. The first trend to suggest the death of economics is the green trade-off. This means that most measures to safeguard our environment will be bad for the economy. Quite simply, to combat climate change and to save natural resources, we have no choice but to consume less and to accept that our economy must shrink. Indeed, to suggest that we can save the planet without hurting economic growth is nothing short of delusional. Another reason for the death of economics is a growing appreciation of the consequence behind the price. In other words, people are starting to think about the broader impact of what they buy beyond the cost to themselves. Once again, the green agenda surfaces. However, considering the consequence behind the price is also starting to drive people away from clothing produced in sweatshops, as well as towards fair trade products and free-range food. The extent to which we will further embrace technologies such as genetic engineering or nuclear power is also likely to depend on ethical, cultural, environmental and religious judgments far more than their economic cost. The human race now faces many challenges beyond economic solutions. For example, economics will suddenly matter far less if millions of people die in a flu pandemic or if an energy shortage makes widespread travel impossible. Both a viral pandemic and an energy crunch are also highly probable within the next decade. And in the wake of either calamity, most people are likely to have to broaden their philosophies beyond an addiction to the marketplace. What the green trade-off, the consequence behind the price, and challenges beyond economic solutions all remind us is that economics promotes short-term decision-making. Unfortunately, on our overcrowded planet, this is simply not sustainable. For human civilization to survive, we need to start valuing the future as well as the present. We also need to accept some constraints on our individual freedoms to do as we please. Life is a decision-making process. Economics deals with this by paying people money that lets us all make our own unconstrained choices. However, while such mass individualism may have brought economic prosperity for a century or more, in future it will not continue to work. In this video, I've deliberately tried to think and present the unthinkable. I could quite easily have argued against myself by saying that we will continue to use our ingenuity to evolve out of harm's way, perhaps by seeking new resources beyond planet Earth. However, we all at least need to start thinking about the alternative. Economics is so inbred into our current belief systems that an age in which economics is not king, in which the economy serves us rather than people serving the economy, may seem unimaginable. However, it is a fantasy that already shows some signs of becoming real. For a more detailed explanation of the death of economics, please visit explainingthefuture.com. But now that's it for another video. And remember, the future is in your hands.